Greetings, Vinley community. Wait, what? Sorry, there's a typo on the teleprompter. Greetings, vinyl community. I went on a little excursion to San Francisco over the weekend, and guess what? I came back with records, so I'll be showing those today. First record I have to show is actually not from that excursion, but is something that came in the mail. This is the 2015 album Forbidden Symmetries by Tender Buttons. Tender Buttons is a trio of Tanya Chen on piano, Tom Dill on electronics, whose name is spelled D-J-L-L, and Gino Robert also on electronics. So, as you might expect, this is a basically electronic album. It's kind of sparse musically. There are a lot of little spidery clusters of piano notes, and the electronics are done sort of woven together subtly, so there's a lot of space for the different timbres to shine through. Really nice package. It is a 45 RPM LP, so not very long. One side is only about 11 minutes, 12 minutes. The other side is 15 minutes. It is available in both black and clear vinyl editions, and I specifically requested the clear vinyl. So there you go. Forbidden Symmetries by Tender Buttons. It also has a nice little insert with the credits. And moving on to the San Francisco Safari, I visited Amoeba Records and picked up this album from 1974 by the Swedish guitarist Jana Shaffer and his Andra LP, or his other LP, this being his second solo album. He does a mixture of funky rhythms with sort of prog rock touches. There are hints of Frank Zappa in here. There's sudden shifts from a funk-based beat to a little twisty prog rock beat. Nice gatefold. Nice custom label as well, very fancy. So a cool fusion guitar piece by Jana Shaffer, veteran guitarist who did sessions for ABBA. This couldn't be more different, I think, than doing sessions for ABBA. Next place I visited was Groove Merchant on Haight Street, as is Amoeba. And before entering the store, I visited the dollar bin outside, where I found Family Bandstand with an intact version of the die-cut gatefold cover even. Similarly die-cut inner sleeve to go with it. Very nice package and a great album. This was the follow-up to their masterpiece, Fearless, and two songs in particular really stand out, I think, on this album, Burlesque and My Friend the Sun, which are the opening tracks on the respective sides. So Bandstand by Family. This one really caught my eye on the ESP label, Ornette Coleman Town Hall 1962. Not an original pressing, which had a different cover, but I actually like this cover better than the original. But it is a 60s pressing on the white ESP label. This is 3 tracks? Yes, 3 tracks by his then current, like Ornette Coleman, by Ornette Coleman's then current trio, with David Isenson on bass and Charles Moffat on percussion, and 1 composition for string quartet. Dedication to Poets and Writers, a 9-minute work for string quartet to show that Ornette Coleman wanted to really prove himself as a composer to the audience because he felt he was being disrespected by doing the move into free jazz. People thought he was just kind of playing without knowing what he was doing. So he wanted in this concert to really showcase his compositional ability, and that's what we get here. Take note that the first track is titled Donut. Donuts will figure again in this video. That's a really nice condition copy. I think I paid too much for it, but what the heck, I actually probably paid too little at the same time for this, because this was a still sealed copy, an original copy of Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band Dock at the Radar Station on the Virgin label. The version I had back in the day was on the green and red Virgin label, so this is a variation on that, but Discogs doesn't show it as a later pressing. It just gives the date still as 1980, so I'm not sure what the difference is on that label, but this is a classic Beefheart album. It was his penultimate album. His final album was a bit of a scrape to put together. He was really running out of steam and ready to leave the music business entirely, going full-time into painting. This, of course, is his own artwork on the cover. Not at all my favorite of his artworks. I don't know why he would have chosen this very black, abrupt-looking image for the cover. There's the band. The Magic Band. Notice the clothespin tie clasp. This album got a lot of buzz at the time upon its release in 1980 due to the band's appearance on Saturday Night Live, performing 2 songs from this album, Ashtray Heart and Hothead, which are the first 2 tracks on the album. It's really classic Beefheart. It's one of the more intense Beefheart albums. Unlike the one that preceded it was Shiny Beast, which had some lighter pieces, more traditionally musical. The album that came after, that was the last album of Captain Beefheart's career, was Ice Cream for Crow, and that included some spoken word pieces and just let the intensity ebb at times. Whereas this is really hardcore Beefheart, and amazing lyrics, amazing playing, vintage beef. And on the krautrock side, I found this cool symphonic progressive rock album from Germany, Volenstein, Cosmic Century. This is from 1974, I think. I'm not seeing it. I'm going to assume I'm right. 1974. This is on the Kosmischen Courier, or Cosmic Couriers imprint, PDU label from Italy. It's quadraphonic, apparently. Can't prove it by me because, like most of us, I don't have a quadraphonic turntable or sound system. But there you go. Wallenstein, Cosmic Century. Moved on to Grooves in San Francisco, and one of the records I picked up was this great album by French Frith Kaiser Thompson, Fred Frith, John French. This is, of course, related to Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band, because you've got John French from the original Magic Band. You've got Fred Frith from Henry Cow, You got Fred Frith associate, Henry Kaiser, noted for his experimental guitar recordings, and of course the great, great Brit folk singer-songwriter Richard Thompson. You put all these together and you get this amazingly accessible and wonderful, basically pop album with a lot of unusual touches, but nothing forbidding about it at all. Love the labels too. You get a red and a sort of blue-green version of that same image on the labels. This is, although Richard Thompson supplies some very dark songs on here, it's overall a very fun album. Never more so when they do a version of an Okinawan folk song, which is about drinking and going to the whorehouse and basically doing naughty Japanese things. And that is sung in the Okinawan language, obviously phonetically, by the entire crew, so it's quite a riot. There's also a very, very silly cover of Surfin' USA to close out side one. Very, very fine album, the title of which is Live, Love, Larf, and Loaf. And related to that one through Fred Frith on the Rift Records label is Phil Minton, A Donut in Both Hands. Solo singing, as it is billed, both on front and back. And that's where donuts come in again, but then aren't all records basically donut-shaped? We can wax philosophical about that. This is philosophical wax. But solo singing may not be the best description of what's inside, because a lot of what Phil Minton does, you'd be hard-pressed to call singing. He makes a lot of very throat-stretching noises. Some of it is frankly quite disgusting. He makes retching sounds. He makes howls and gurgles and just a lot of whatever kind of noise can escape the human larynx or the inhuman larynx. This is an album from 1981, side one of which was recorded in London in 1980 in 2 separate sessions, and side two of which recorded back in 1975 in Bracknell. Phil Minton. Okay, I had to take a phone call there, so I have no idea where I was, except that I was talking about this album, part of the Music of Our Time series from Columbia Masterworks, Our Time being 1969, which is when this album was released. First piece on here is not the first piece listed on the cover, but is The Dorian Horizon by Toru Takemitsu. And that's a wonderful composition for strings only. Really expressive and experimental scoring for the strings that ends up sounding almost electronic because of the colorful technique used in the writing for the strings. The second piece is the Xenakis Acrata, which is an exercise in rapidly repeated notes, tremolo, tonguing on the brass instruments in particular, and quarter tone relationships. So you'll have one instrument playing in a certain tuning and it'll be answered by another instrument in a quarter tone away tuning. So it's got that architectural approach that is very characteristic of Xenakis. And that's the side one. Side two are both vocal pieces. Luigi Nono Canciones, I can't even read this, Guiomar. And that is a very nicely scored, very colorful piece. And finally, David Del Tredici Syzygy. Love this cover too. Again, it's on the Columbia Masterworks label. Another series of 20th century music, this time from Nonesuch, the Spectrum series, New American Music Volume 3. This features pieces for chamber orchestras, Jacob Druckmann's incenters, that's for various woodwinds, a couple of brass, strings, piano doubling with electric organ and percussion, and Joseph Schwanter's Diaphonia Intervolum from 1966 for alto saxophone, flute, piano, 2 violins, viola, 2 cellos, double bass. Those pieces didn't hook me that much, but the piece on side 2, John Harbison Confinement, again for a basic chamber orchestra of winds, including alto sax, the 2 brass again. It's very similar to the Druckmann piece, basically the same instrumentation. That's a really nice piece, nice linear storytelling piece, interesting rhythmically, good use of the percussion. So that for me is the prize on this particular album. I like the graphics, the way that they use a color negative of the front cover art on the back, which is a theme that they use on these LPs. It's a kind of Nonesuch trademark. Finally, we're getting into the softcore stuff. Hi, Steve. I know you must be watching. Here we go. Scriabin. I've shown the Scriabin Poem of Ecstasy before. This is the version that I used to have back in the day, doubled with the Tchaikovsky Romeo and Juliet symphonic poem, and nudity on the cover in keeping with the Poem of Ecstasy, and liner notes about Scriabin being essentially a sex obsessed, which is, I don't believe he truly was, but that's kind of how they're painting him in the liner notes here. So Deutsche Grammophon and a nice softcore cover to wind things up. Thanks very much for watching. Be well. Talk with you again soon. Bye-bye for now.